so they did a great job. I mean, it was very clear. So we see in this first one that I really love the fact that this student chose to put a superlative in there and totally cement for us that this is where they want us to draw attention to, because they've looked at the different arguments that they had. They could have chosen federal or state level, and they felt as though, given the evidence, that they wanted to kind of curate that this is the best piece of advice that they could give to somebody, like almost like if you're having a conversation. I almost see sometimes some of these FRQs could be like conversations at dinner or maybe on the school bus. I don't know. But so the student says, yeah, right off the bat, taking a position, staking a claim. I see a lot of symmetrical language in the response from the prompt. So again, repeating that language is ensuring to the student they're kind of writing, and as they're writing or typing, they're both seeing it and they're kind of going through the motions of putting that language down. And I would say, you know, if they could say it out loud, they would hear it, but it's reinforcing that they understand what the question is asking. Because what we had talked about on Tuesday was one of the greater dangers is that students don't answer the question. And so we do see them doing that here. Go ahead.
That's right. And this student does a great job of being very clear about the position that they're taking, and then the reason, because why is this the position that I'm writing about? Why is this the position that's better than the others that are being presented? And the great reminder here for everybody participating today is you can relax about the upcoming exam because you know what the question is going to look like. That's what the practice is all about, and that's what we're trying to facilitate today. So you know that you're going to get some options in the prompt. We're going to give them to you. We're going to say, here's one direction that you could go. Here's a different direction that you could go. And all you've got to do is pick one of those and say why you're choosing that position, or why it's better than the other position. And then of course you'll use the evidence when we get to that. So great job for this student. Takes a position right there, right up front. Love the use of that best word, love that superlative, and then develops a line of reasoning.
Yeah.
Because minorities are going to be protected across the whole nation. That's why it's better to have the national government than just to have state governments do it, where it would be state by state.
For sure. And I love that the language that they use for their reasoning is something that can be addressed in both of those documents that they chose, choosing the 14th and the 10th. And sometimes when I'm reading student responsive, they kind of don't know how to blend together the two documents. So they end up kind of saying, well, in federal, like they take the gist of Federalist 10 and the gist of 14th and they kind of throw it out there. But this person does a really nice job of finding symmetry in those two documents to kind of find a through line that they can go back and reference over and over and over again. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I saw in here. The description is really, really nice, getting to the relevant parts of the claim in their nice identification of the evidence there. I think they did a really concise job at dealing with a really complicated argument that's produced in Federalist 10. I think that a lot of times students, when they're trying to explain Federalist 10, it's like multiple steps, and each step that they take can get a little lost. But they did a nice job of boiling it down. Did you have any comments on that part of the essay?
No, just I really appreciate here. Remember, my 3 rules I gave the other day. Relax, you've got this, you're prepared, you've spent the semester or the year getting ready, and now you're practicing. Second, answer the question. We just covered that a minute ago by saying, the thesis needs to state a position, develop a line of reasoning. And then my third point was be clear and organized. And I really appreciate the way that this test taker has organized their essay. They start off right. Look at how they do this. They start off that second paragraph with James Madison writes in Federalist 10, right? So they're going to tell us what James Madison's writing in Federalist 10. That's going to acknowledge the foundational document that we've provided. It's going to tell us correct information about the document. He writes that. So again, gives us correct information. And then look at that transition. Thus, Federalist 10 shows minority rights are best protected by the federal government. So now that's the transition from the correct evidence that supports the thesis and the position that the student took in the thesis. and it provides reasoning. It shows us why or how Federalist 10 supports the position that the student took in the first paragraph. So great job. And notice that I really love the parallelism here where the student does the same thing for the third paragraph, but now with the 14th Amendment. Further, the 14th Amendment, they give us a very good, nice description of that. And then they do that transition. You call it a turn signal over in your bar.
Yes.
I like that, the transition or the turn signal that says, here comes the reasoning part of that. So good job to this student. Congratulations.
Yes, very good. I would say the one last thing I want to point out is I'm really appreciative of the fact that the student, they did their unboxing ceremony of the 14th Amendment, remembering there's multiple rights that are found inside of that that really helps clarify where they're going. So thinking about clarity and organization and answering the question, I want to like, before I get into this, the next question, the next example, like I told Dr. Meinhold that last night, my online students and I had a class. And so we were doing my homework for this class together. And I was reading these FRQs at the same time with them as a way to kind of have them listen to my thought process as I'm going through this, but also allow them to practice grading FRQs, which is a really critical skill. It doesn't seem like it, but when you're grading somebody else's, you're being forced to reinforce, like to look for those things that you've been trained to do. Did you identify the evidence? Did you sufficiently explain or describe what's happening in that evidence that pertains to your argument? Did you sufficiently use your commentary to show how that is going to support your argument? And some of these kids are doing that on Twitter, which is really fun. They've actually kind of in my absence, they've taken to grading each other. So when I get on there, I'm getting so much more commentary about each other's work, which is so cool. But this next one, my students and I laughed because we were like, this is a 7. If it's not a 7, we're questioning ourselves. And we had said, we want to ask the student to prom. It's the greatest essay. And so I think when we get to that, we'll see why. One of the things that the students identified that popped off the page was they felt like the bolding of their evidence was really nice.